last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. Our top story this week, U.S. Representative Michelle Bachmann exaggerates her foster care record, claiming that she raised 23 foster kids, including some that had been in her home for no more than a week. California keeps resisting the foster parent raise despite a court order demanding that the state do so. And gays intend to use Father's Day to encourage more gay adoptions, even though the U.S. Census has already revealed a massive increase in gay adoptions since the year 2000. In Illinois this week, a study reveals that it is much harder to get medical care for your kids if you are on Medicaid. Another study reveals that racial bias may influence child welfare decisions. And the state takes over as Catholic Charities ends its adoption program over the gay adoption thing. Connecticut State Supreme Court overturns the termination of a couple's parental rights. And a child dies while under the watch of the Department of Children and Families, which the newspapers are saying will put the new commissioner to the test. The state of Florida plans to implement its drug screening program for welfare recipients. And a positive piss test could trigger a child abuse investigation. New Jersey's child welfare system faces a probe by federal monitors after an 8-year-old dies while under the state's watchful eye. The state's DYFS commissioner blames a child abuse hotline worker for improperly handling the call, leading the New Jersey Senate to pass a bill for stricter rules on monitoring child abuse cases. And the governor of New Hampshire vetoes a bill that would require parental notification when a teenager wants to terminate a pregnancy. In New Mexico, an audit reveals that caseloads for child protection workers is dangerously high. Lawmakers in New York want the records of violent foster kids available to all caregivers. North Carolina considers compensating the victims of a eugenics program that ended in 1979, which forced the poor and mentally ill to be sterilized. And the Oregon State Legislature passes a bill to penalize those who knowingly make false claims of child abuse. A new study claims that the children of depressed women who go to daycare have less behavior problems after age 5. And medical professionals are responding to research verifying that millions of children have been misdiagnosed with ADHD and in many cases are in fact just advanced creative thinkers. In Sweden this week, a couple is forced to give back the son who they adopted after the real mother changes her mind. UNICEF is urging African governments to provide more protection for children, and China kicks their new child welfare system into high gear. India plans to provide shelter for thousands of street kids. A mother from Russia fights to get her kid back from an abusive foster home in Norway. In Spain, a mother loses custody of her 15-month-old for refusing to wean. And WikiLeaks claims that Ireland uses foster children as sex slaves. In Australia this week, one set of foster siblings were ripped from their stable, loving foster home and separated over a disagreement between foster mother and the Department of Children's Services. And another set of foster kids were removed from a foster home with a meth lab. In Canada, a woman gets a year in jail for smoking pot and having sex with her foster son. Manitoba fails to hold a required public hearing into its troubled child welfare system, and many Canadian fathers still won't be able to see their kids on Father's Day. Child abuse hysteria hits England this week as the Suffolk County Council sees a disturbing increase in child abuse referrals. Wales sees a 10% increase in child removals, all since the 2008 death of baby P. British mother faces charges for attempting to rescue her kid from foster care, and a 10-year-old commits suicide after being fed Ritalin. A couple of British parents who complained to the head teacher about their daughter's treatment at school ends up secretly being reported to social services, and British cops like to traumatize children by locking them up in police cells overnight. In entertainment news this week, the pregnant Tori Spelling crashes her car into her kid's school while being chased by the paparazzi, and in her new book, Bristol Palin reveals how she lost her virginity to Levi Johnson, claiming that she had too many wine coolers and woke up in the tent the next morning with absolutely no memory of what had happened the night before. A foster mother from Antioch, California is convicted of torturing, abusing, and murdering a child in her care. In New Mexico, two 15-year-old girls are charged with the murder of their foster mother. A man from New York is charged with making a false report to the child abuse hotline. And in Ohio, a 16-year-old girl claims to have been molested by her foster father since 2005. Pennsylvania adoption agency is accused of scamming money from would-be adoptive parents. A mother from Texas gets 5 years probation for spanking. The Florida caseworker who was fired due to her failure in the case of a 10-year-old who was murdered in foster care loses her appeal to get her job back. And the kid's death will of course lead to another overhaul of the state's child welfare system. A California father has his parental kidnapping charges dropped after it is found that there was no court order denying him custody. A couple sues the child protective industry for wrongfully snatching their kids. And the family of a dead probation officer who stole money from aged-out foster kids is claiming that the guy is being used as a scapegoat. In Delaware, a father reunites with his son who was put up for adoption 35 years ago. And in Florida, a judge allows a lawsuit to proceed in regards to a girl who was abused in foster care. A father from New York is forced to plead guilty to leaving his kid in a cold cart in order to get him back from foster care. And although the state of Nebraska knew where to find a father to collect his child support payments, they didn't have a clue where he was when his kid was taken into foster care, which is their excuse for failure to notify him for more than 8 months. An Oklahoma couple is in hot water after losing their kids and threatening to blow up DHS. A former district attorney candidate from Texas has sexual abuse charges against him dropped after his 16-year-old daughter refuses to testify. And finally, tonight, a desperate to adopt Texas foster couple fights to keep a kid which will ultimately keep him separated from his siblings for life. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.